Thank you so much. Thank you for being so dumb. What?
We tried to warn. Never mind.
Hello, my name is Miss April May, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. And if you've been here before, thank you for coming back. Either way, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. So today we're going to be talking about the MAGA farmers who have FAFO'd. So if you missed it, there is a trade war going on because of these tariffs between the US and China, tariffs that President Trump has implemented. Now, many of these farmers, some of the same farmers who voted for Trump 2 or 3 times, overwhelmingly voted for Trump multiple times, are struggling. And now they're complaining. They have found out that Trump's tariffs are not good news for them or anyone else. So let's watch a few videos that will detail how these farmers are faring right now, and let's talk about it.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We made the decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the 7th generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
So as you saw in that video, many people in the farming community are upset with Trump because of these tariffs. Now, one lady in the video said that because of these tariffs, it's possible that her son will not inherit the farm and be the next generation of farmers. But didn't you already know this? Because if I remember correctly, and my memory is bad, so maybe I'll put something up here. But if I remember correctly, during Trump 1.0, as I like to call it, the first Trump administration, Trump 1.0, the farmers got a bailout because of Trump's trade policies, which caused other countries, I believe mainly China again, to not buy goods from US farmers. So you already went through this one time. So this shouldn't be surprising. So if your son or your children are not able to inherit your farm, that's on you. At some point, we need to start taking accountability for our actions. So let's watch another video of a farmer who, again, is complaining and not taking accountability. And he also voted for Trump.
This is awful discouraging. You know, we do our very best to grow a good crop to feed the world, and then we can't hardly give it away.
Bachmann blames President Trump for the soybean crisis, even though he voted for him. He says new tariffs are forcing China to buy soybeans from Argentina and Brazil. Now many Iowa farmers face selling this year's crop at a huge loss.
The way things are, there won't be a farmer left in 5 years if things don't change because our expenses are so high and the crop is worth less than it was 30 years ago.
Bachmann survived the farm crisis during the 1980s. It led to thousands of farm foreclosures. If the federal government offers crop payments to help farmers, Bachmann says he'll say no thanks.
We would a lot rather have free markets than a handout.
Bachmann recently asked Iowa Senator Charles Grassley for help with those free markets.
I told him that the 1980s farm crisis is going to look like a picnic compared to today if things don't change and change fast.
So that farmer said that he would rather have a free market than to get a bailout. But I promise you, if push comes to shove and the government offers him that bailout, he's going to take it because no one wants to lose their job. No one wants to lose their farm and their land. Let's be serious. But the nerve that these people have to not remember what happened the first time around, right? If you're a farmer, you more than likely did not become a farmer yesterday. You're a farmer because more than likely you're a generational farmer. Okay. So you've been doing this your entire life since you were a child because you were raised in it. So you have, like he said, the 1980s farm crisis, the farm bailout the first time, and Trump 1.0. Like you've been through this and you still have not learned your lesson. And I feel like these farmers are catching it from all sides, and rightfully so. So if you got a problem with what I'm about to say, I don't care. Don't come up in here thinking you're going to get any sympathy or empathy or whatever from me. Okay. They're catching it from all sides. You voted for Trump knowing that he already said, oh, all of these other countries are taking advantage of us and this and that, right? And then also knowing that Trump 1.0 started a tariff or trade issue and had to give you a bailout, right? He talked about deporting illegal immigrants, the main workforce on farms, because it is hard work, low paid work in the sun, okay? So you still voted for him, even though the trade war was looming, even though he talked about deporting illegal immigrants. And then also with the trade war, not only are you unable to sell your products to other countries because of the trade war, so now the price has gone up, also the prices of imports have gone up from other countries, right? So if you have your tractors or your plows or other farm equipment, if those things are not made in the US, if they're imported, or even if parts are imported on those types of equipment, the price of the equipment is going to go up, right? So that means you're going to pay more. So not only you can't sell your goods, your soybeans, whatever you're growing, you can't sell it. And then also the equipment that you use on your farm, the price of those things has gone up. You did this to yourself. And speaking of the prices of equipment and other materials that farmers need going up, let's watch this video of a conversation a farmer had with a vendor that he needed to buy some products from.
All right, guys, I didn't really want to have to get on here and do this, but I had to. These are fiberglass stakes right here. Those big, bulky stakes on the back of the truck, wooden stakes. I called 2 weeks ago to get a quote on these fiberglass stakes because we need some more stakes this year. I got a quote, 83 cents. I called the man this morning. I said, hey, I know these tariffs are crazy and everything going on. I said, what can you do me on those fiberglass stakes now if we needed a load? It's a 3-month ETA from time you place the order. He said, Taylor, he said, you don't want to hear this price that I'm about to give you. And I said, well, give it to me anyways. He said, each of those steaks now is going to be $1.74 a piece. And I said, well, you know, and I know both that we can't do that, and that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs, not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
So imagine voting for a man who creates a tariff trade war. And the price of, I think those, what did he say, fiberglass steaks? And it looks like the employees were putting them in the ground. So I'm guessing it's for like the vines of a plant to like run up or something like that. That's just my layman's guess. I'm not a farmer, right? But imagine the price of this steak, just something you put in the ground, right? Went from 83 cents, I think he said, to $1.74. Literally double the price. So imagine either you have to pay twice as much for what you got before, or if you don't have the money, you could only buy half as much product to keep your farm going.
Until the federal government steps in to save them, farmers have no one to turn to but God.
Farmers, in my opinion, dear Lord, and it's only my opinion, are closer to thee than anyone else on this earth because we deal with your earth every day. Dear Lord, we're hurting, dear Lord. We can't help what's happened to us.
When he said, we can't help what's happened to us. Yes, you can. This is your fault. Farmers overwhelmingly voted for Trump both times. The first time in, what was that, 2016, they voted for him by like 85%, I think. And this time he lost a few votes, but in 2024, farmers voted for him by almost 80%. I think it was like 76 or 78%. So you can help what happens to you. This is your fault. Once again, you voted for a man who started a trade war for no reason, knowing that your biggest customers, such as China, is a foreign country, right? So if tariffs go up, if there's a trade issue, this will always directly affect you. But you didn't take the time to stop and think about that. And then to bring God into it. It's like, yes, I understand when times are rough, especially you really rely on God and maybe you pray more, maybe you go to church a little bit more. I get that. But you can't sit and ignore the fact that you voted for this. That is your right to vote, and you used it incorrectly.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us, harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs. And we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers. And they're critical.
And then to think, okay, so if I'm Trump, right? And I know, I mean, God only knows what he actually knows because they say he doesn't read briefings or anything. But anyway, so let's say I'm Trump and I know that the majority of soybean farmers, they export their goods to China, right? China buys those farm beans. I meant soybeans, right? So I know that China buys those soybeans. If I'm going to implement tariffs on another country, why would I choose China knowing that my farmers mostly sell their products to China? Well, word on the street is that these farms eventually, when these farmers go bankrupt, right, and they no longer have their generational farm to pass down to their kids and their grandkids, right, that these farms are going to close, they're going to go bankrupt, go into foreclosure, whatever. And then a company under JD Vance and I think Peter Thiel, right? But that they have some type of real estate investment group that is going to buy up these farms. So that's word on the street. So if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments because I can definitely put together that video because that's what I've been seeing and reading, like especially on TikTok, people like leave little nuggets of information. So let me know and I can definitely look into that for you because if we think about it, that doesn't make logical sense for a president to implement tariffs on a country that is a major buyer of products from my country. Doesn't make sense. So there definitely has to be an ulterior motive. That's what I would assume. So this video is from a lady who is not a farmer, but she makes a few great points. So let's listen in on how these farmers are basically welfare queens, okay?
Wait a minute. So farmers are suing Trump because they want their stimulus checks back. Oh, no. Y'all voted for this, remember? Elections have consequences, baby. So here's the tea. Joe Biden and Congress put grants together to give money to farmers. Trump gets in and what does he do? Cuts contracts, snatches the money, and leaves the farmers high and dry. But now the same folks who cheered him on are like, we want our money. Now let's connect the dots real quick on something. For decades, farmers have been living on government handouts, billions in subsidies to keep their farms afloat. While some of those same farmers turn around and point their fingers at families on food stamps. And they have the nerve to call them welfare queens. Nah, let's call it what it is. The biggest welfare queens in American society are wearing overalls, not wigs and heels. And here's the irony. Farmers love to preach about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, guess what, farmers? Take your own advice. If you can't sustain your farm without taxpayer bailouts, maybe farming ain't your ministry, boo. Because my tax dollars and your tax dollars shouldn't be propping up businesses that can't sustain on their own. So no, farmers shouldn't get a dime. Elections have consequences and farmers are finally feeling it. What do you think? So should we keep footing the bill for people who keep vilifying other people who depend on assistance? Or is it finally time that farmers actually live by their own rules? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear if y'all truly are done funding America's real welfare queen.
I completely agree with her. If you need bailouts to keep your business running, maybe that business isn't for you, right? And whether it's because of the market or the circumstances of the economy, whatever, maybe it's not for you. Because it's quite funny how everyone else has to pull themselves up from by the bootstraps, right? If you're from an urban community, if you don't grow up with money, if your parents can provide X, Y, and Z for you as a child, well, it's pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But what about them? Why don't they have to pull themselves up by the bootstraps? Why? Because they grow crops, they're different from the rest of us. Why does my taxpayer money and your taxpayer money have to be used to bail them out? That's not our problem. Because if I get into financial trouble and I can't pay my bills, the government's not going to come and bail me out. They'll say, oh, well, that's your problem. Spend a little less, work a little more, get a weekend job, whatever. It's not their problem. So why do we have to take care of them and bail them out? It's quite funny how socialism only is good for certain people. When certain people have a problem, when certain people get in trouble financially, socialism's okay. But nah, free lunches in schools for kids or, giving people Medicaid and Medicare and health insurance and, things like that. Nah. We can't do that. No. Mm-mm. That's un-American. So this last video is very important because typically when we think of farmers, we usually think of like an older white man in like the Midwest with like overalls on, right? But there are Black farmers. And I want you to hear this Black farmer talk about how he and other Black farmers are responding to the tariffs and the trade war and the difference in their experiences.
So I'm a black farmer, and a lot of people are wondering, why are black farmers not panicking like a lot of white farmers? Well, let me explain to you the reasons why. It's because white farmers have been handed everything to them, a lot of them. Not saying all of them, but a good bit of them. And by that I mean this, MLK even pointed out, he says, farmers in the West and the Midwest who were white, they were given land, they were given money, they were given training, they were given a lot. Whereas the black farmers weren't given anything, and the largest civil rights settlement in U.S. history is Pickford v. Glickman, where you had a class action lawsuit, bunch of black farmers all joined the lawsuit, and they won a huge settlement because the USDA was shown to be racist for decades. So because black farmers haven't been given anything, we've been learning to do without, unlike your white farmers. So when things are taken away from you, all your subsidies, all your tax breaks, guess what? You panic. Whereas we've always been going through this shit. So there's problems in privilege.
So like that farmer said, many of the white farmers who have these generational farms were able to get there because before their parents, grandparents, and so on received farm equipment, money, supplies, land to actually get their farm started. So the experience that Black farmers are now having with the tariffs is completely different than some of these white farmers who voted for Donald Trump because they've always had to do without. They've never gotten the subsidies and the free equipment or free seeds or whatever the case is. They've always had to literally pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So their experiences are just completely different. So before I go, I'll leave you with a few comments that you can read just for your viewing pleasure. But by far, my favorite one was thoughts and tariffs. Because yes, I am petty like that. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And please let me know in the comments, what do you think about this whole MAGA farmer trade war thing? Do you think they were wrong for voting for Trump? Do you think that the government should bail them out? Do you think they should just be allowed to fail? And oh well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Let me know in the comments what you think and how you feel. My name is Miss April May, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
You're officially coming with me. You got that.